So, in this discussion, I am continuing with the Indian Constitution and its features. Now, I would like to talk about the need for a federal structure and how it emerged in US and what is the difference in India. So, I would like to write the heading as need for a federal structure and how it has emerged in US, because US is considered to be the first federation. Lot of elaborate discussions took place there and ultimately the constitution was created. So, how does it different from India and what is the commonality and why this is required? So, it is a bit of to understand the philosophy behind the federation. Okay. See, first of all, in US, if you look at the history of the American experience, if you look, see, the War of Independence took place between 1774 or rather 74 to 76, that is the time when the War of Independence took place. And finally, the British supremacy ended and the states, various units there in US, they all declared independent. Independent units emerged. So, they were as good as, independent units emerged. So, all these states, the states in US today, the present day states, they all became independent first. They were free to do whatever they want. And they started independently governing also. But in the process, they realized that being independent is good. I mean, because you have all freedom, you can decide on everything. But then you will have to manage all the costs also. The defense also should be there, foreign policy should be there, ambassadors across the world should be there, immigration policy should be there. So, a series of things came to their mind, or rather they found that, and then there is a lot of diversity in the resource allocation, the geographical resources. In some places coal is there, in some place in agricultural land is there, in some places it's fully desert, but their strength may be something else. So, these independent states realized that independence is good, they all cherish this independence, everybody cherishes some independence, we don't want interference by somebody else, but at the same time being together has certain advantage. It's something like in a nuclear family and joint family. A nuclear family, husband and wife, especially after marriage, they would like to be independent. But at the same time, if it is in a joint family, they need not worry about so many costs. They need not worry about where to stay. They need not worry about the basic food and all those things, because in joint family this is already there. So, it is something like the dilemma. The issue for the states were like whether he should become a nuclear family or a joint family, that is, should be part of the joint family. So, 13 states in US in the beginning sat together at a place called Philadelphia. This is called the Philadelphia Convention. So, 13 of the states sat together, they discussed, negotiated, prolonged negotiation, years together they negotiated, and finally they came up with a federal structure. So, we can say 13 states after the end of the Philadelphia Convention, by 1789 the American Federal Constitution emerged. They agreed to give up some of the powers. So, in fact, the founding fathers of the American Federation, they attempted to balance the whole thing with liberty. They wanted, liberty, that freedom. At the same time, and also they wanted to order with liberty. One side there should be freedom should be there. At the same time, there should be an orderly life. There should be order and orderly life should be there. And they wanted to avoid tyranny. In fact, the aim of this federation was to some sort of independence for the state should be there. They wanted to avoid tyranny. They wanted to avoid concentration of power in few hands, allow more participation in politics, allow more participation in politics. And see, as I said, they cherish their freedom, individual, their culture, their tradition, their freedom. Then they wanted more participation in politics, and also these individual states, when 13 states can do lot of experiments, if some of these experiments are successful, it can be used across the states. If experiment is failed, that it's like a laboratory, a small place, you conducted an experiment, it failed, you need not take it for the rest of the country. So they wanted to they wanted to do experiments in a smaller place, but most importantly they wanted to cherish some independence and freedom, and at the same time they wanted to come together to ensure that some of these costs can be shared, some of the bigger issues can be shared with them. So the American Federation, through the Philadelphia Convention, the 13 states they joined together, we can call it as a coming together federation. We can call it as a coming together federation. The states came together, and it's a halfway house. It's something like, they did not want to integrate, they did not want to give up all powers, and they did not want to be independent. So they wanted to create a federation as a halfway house or a halfway system. On one side, full integration. They do not want, if it's full integration, it becomes a unitary government, you gave up all powers, center will do everything. If they keep all freedom, it will become fully independent, so there is no connection with the state. So they wanted somewhere in between, full integration on one side and full independence on the other side. They wanted to keep some power so that they can cherish their freedom, but at the same time they want to take advantage of being together also. So it is a federation, is a compromise. Federation is a compromise between the desire to be fully independent, or rather a compromise between the desire to be free and independent and the advantages of being together. See, imagine the joint family. In joint family, a lot of advantages are there, but there is less freedom there. You cannot decide what to eat today. What is prepared in the kitchen, in the joint family kitchen, you have to eat that. You may think that I would like to eat something more. You may not be able to eat because you have to share with everybody. So being together, but you need not worry about food. Food is there, but your choice may not be there. So the federation is a compromise between the desire to be fully free and independent on one side and the advantages of being together. So it's a compromise. It's a halfway house. Okay, that is why it is called federation, and that is how the American Federation came into being. And when it comes to Indian experience, we can say the opposite has happened. See, there the states came together to create a federation. In India, the opposite has taken place, where the center, India as a country, the federation came first. In India, the federation came first. Now, we decided to create states. The federal government decided to create states. So that is the opposite. So that is why Indian Federation is called a holding together federation. Holding together federation. We are holding together. Center, so it is in the American system, the states came to the center, came together. It's a centripetal force, attraction toward the center. It's a centripetal force was more prominent, the force toward the center. But in Indian system, what is happening? It is the opposite. We can say the center has created the state, so more of centrifugal force. Okay, it is centrifugal force. So the opposite. See, now why Indian leaders, why constitution makers thought of a federation? Because the constitution makers realized that to maintain, to cherish the culture, to maintain, see, we have a unity in diversity. We want everybody to protect their culture. To protect individual culture, it is better to have a federal system where there is some freedom, some autonomy for the states to do something. See, because please understand, we are very sentimental about our culture. Indians are very sentimental about our culture. We cannot tolerate any, what you call, any attack on our culture. And please remember, language is the best manifestation of culture. Language is the best manifestation of culture. Culture is best manifested, best displayed through language. The moment you open your mouth, we can understand, oh, he is a South Indian or a North Indian, this, that, the accent and everything. It will tell you, your culture will be revealed immediately. So, we are very particular. So, we wanted to protect the culture, we wanted to cherish the culture, we will not give. So, constitution makers knew that Indians are very emotional about culture. So, one of the ways, the best way to allow the states to protect the culture is give state governments or local governments with autonomy, some freedom. So, we realized that. So, and moreover, since India is such a vast country with a lot of regional aspirations, a federation can be the best structure or best mechanism to protect the regional aspirations. Federation can be the best mechanism to protect the regional aspiration. And most importantly, in India, vast inequalities between the regions. So, resource allocation, the localization of resources is totally, resources are localized in many places. You see, coal, iron ore, it's all concentrated in a few areas. So, in a federal system, we will be able to have a relationship. See, if it is, to maintain that resources or rather to, adequately, what you call, distribute the resources, a federal system can be of better use. And a huge density of population, absolute number is also very high. So, some autonomy to the people of the regions is a must, and a federation can help in doing that. So, the central government decided to create federation in India. So, this federation is also geographical. Please see, because of the vastness of the country, a federation is a must. Had our India been very small, a federation need not have been there. The diversity of culture would not have been there. So, this diversity of culture and the vastness of the country and also the locally concentrated resources, all these things were prompted the Indian leadership to think about creating a federation. So, geography played a very crucial role in the Indian leaders to decide on whether India should have a unitary government or a federal structure. So, in US, the states came together to form the federation. So, federation is a halfway house where sharing of power is there, constitutionally mandated sharing of power. These powers are not given by the center to the states or vice versa. It is clearly manifested and clearly mentioned in the constitution itself. So, constitution has given this power to both the center and the states. So, the federation is an arrangement whereby the power is shared, and that is a must for a vast country. That is a big countries like Russia, Canada, Brazil, Australia, US, India, Argentina, all these big countries are federations because of the vastness of the country. So, geography played a very crucial role, and it helps in protecting the aspirations of the people also, especially in a country like India where we are so sentimental about culture. Federation is the best solution to find to ensure the aspirations of the people. So, that is how this discussion on the need for federation and how the US federation came and how the Indian federation came.